So, I'm sorry, my French is not good, so I'm going to speak in English. And I'm going to read because there's so much I want to say and the time is short and I want you all to hear me. So, okay. Excellencies, distinguished guests, sisters, brothers, and friends. We are gathered here in Luxembourg for the third edition of Black History Month, not simply to mark a date on the calendar, but to immerse ourselves in a space of remembrance, reclamation, and renewal. This month is more than an invocation of our ancestors and a commemoration of their legacies. It is the drumbeat that summons us to assemble, the dance that restores our spirit, and the river of shared dreams flowing towards tomorrow. It reminds us that history is not frozen in the pages of books, but alive in the stories we tell, the ancestors we honor, and the futures we dare to shape. Luxembourg is home to an amalgamation of people originating from more than 180 nations. This, in itself, is a living tapestry of cultures woven with memories, hopes, fears, and desires. Black History Month here is more than an event. It is a diasporic initiative rooted in lived experience. It is an invitation to learn from those silenced by colonial legacies, to unlearn the omissions we inherited, and to relearn the stories that shape who we are, and to reimagine the futures we long for. The work of Black History Month Luxembourg is not only a cultural celebration, it is a political agency. It echoes and tests the promise of the EU Anti-Racism Action Plan, demanding that Europe move beyond proclamations to transformation. This is no time for human rights theater. Leadership is not a matter of drafting elegant policies or signing agreements that gather dust. It is measured by the rights we defend, the voices we amplify, and the structural changes we cement in the everyday lives of our people. Equity, solidarity, and human dignity cannot remain ideals on paper. They must be embodied in housing, in education, in healthcare, in work, in the living, beating heartbeat of Europe's social fabric. Anything less is performance. Anything more is justice our descendants deserve. The EU now stands at crossroads. Will it be a performer in the theater of human rights or a pioneer directing true transformation? Laws and policies, while they are essential, are skeletons without flesh unless they are animated by justice. Racial inequities are not abstractions. They are lived realities in the streets of Luxembourg. They are lived realities in the offices of Brussels, in the schools of Paris, in the hospitals of Berlin. If policies do not work for those at the sharpest intersections of exclusion, then they fail us all. Like you said, nothing about us without us. Because Europe is only as strong as its most vulnerable citizens. To lead is to act boldly, to rewrite narratives of exclusion, to reimagine memory with humility, and to walk the hard road of repair with courage. The rise of the far right feeds on silence, fear, and neglect. It thrives in the cracks where inequality festers. Europe cannot afford to look away. To confront this meanness, the EU must invest in an identity of belonging that does not erase difference, but treasures it as a strength. We cannot defeat hate with apathy. We defeat it with truth, with courage, with solidarity that dares to act. True leadership is not allyship spoken in speeches. True leadership is peership lived in structures of shared power. Black History Month is not a single story, but a crescendo of many cultures coming together in harmony. It is an ocean of narratives fed by countless rivers. In classrooms across Luxembourg, school screenings will show the splendor of Africa, not as a festering wound to be healed, but as a source of untapped wealth that engenders investment. Not as a scourge of shame to be banished, but as a succor of hope to be cherished. not as a continent of doom and despair, but as a cradle of visionaries perched at the precipice of change. This year's themes are bold, urgent, and necessary. The place of women at the front lines of conflict who are too often erased, silenced, or denied. Decolonial thinkers who compel us to question the cultural, economic, and political legacies of colonialism. African independence with a focus on Cap-Verde's 50th anniversary, which is an island nation that chose sovereignty with wisdom and embraced liberation with pride. Today, Cap-Verde represents Limburg's largest afro-descendant community. Throughout this month, we will also honor the legacies of men whose names have become lodestars in our collective memory. Patrice Emery Lumumba, Malcolm X, Frantz Fanon, and Félix Roland Moumier. Narratives of their legacies are not limited to this opening ceremony, but intricately intertwined in every event. Yet, these legacies endured because women carried them, because women protected them, amplified them, preserved them. So alongside these heroes, I welcome you to please let us honor the heroines. Those who bore the weight of war while supporting loved ones in silence. Those who buried their dead and nursed their wounded. Those who endured the endurable, rape, mutilation, loss, and still stood their ground. Those who strategized, fought, and resisted, often without recognition. These women's courage is not carved in stone, but lives in the survival of their people, in the languages still spoken, in the songs still sung, and in the children still dreaming of liberation. In their honor, I invite you all to respond with the ancient affirmation, Ashe, Asheo. I want you to say Asheo. Asheo. Winnie Mandela, who stood when the world looked away, Ashe. Asheo. Spirit Nehanda, whose prophecy still moves the winds of Zimbabwe, Ashe. Asheo. Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, who carried Liberia from turbulence to peace, Ashe. Asheo. Empress Taitu Paitul, who outwitted empires with brilliance, Ashe. Asheo. Miriam Makeba, Mama Africa, who sang freedom into being, Ashe. Asheo. Ya Asantewa, who roared against colonial rule with the heart of a lion, Ashe. Asheo. Njinga Mbandi of Angola, Queen Nani of the Maroons, Wangari Maathai of Kenya, Kimpa Vita of Congo, Mora Wangeti of Kisi, Ashe. Asheo. These were women who did not wait for permission to lead. These were women who were unafraid to defy invisibility. These were women who declared with clarity, courage, and freedom that freedom was not negotiable. In their spirit, I ask you for a moment of silence for the unnamed women at the front lines of today's wars in the Congo, Sudan, Algeria, Ethiopia, Ukraine, Russia, Palestine, and beyond the globe. I ask you to please bow down for a moment and reflect on this. Let us vow that their lives were not lost in vain, but for the betterment of all. Let us vow that their courage will not remain footnotes, but become footholds. Let us vow that our children will not inherit exclusion, but pride of their roots. Let us vow that the world will know Africa in all her mighty glory, in Cape Verdean music in Luxembourg, in Lumumba's visionary voice, in Fanon's radical words, in Makeba's eternal song. Black History Month is our homage to these men and women. History has tried to erase them time and time again, but if we are silent, erasure continues. Let us raise their names, raise their spirits and their lessons, for they remain our teachers, our guides, our champions in the struggle for justice that cannot be ignored. So let us commit to transmit ancestral wisdom, to cherish the memory of our forebears, to embrace their shared histories, to ensure that every child of every background, in every generation, can say with pride, I know where I came from. I know where I belong. I know who I am. I know. Black to our roots. Ubuntu forever. Ashe?
Ashe.